It's already recorded. It's being recorded.
Okay, great. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. We've had little technical difficulties this evening, but hopefully we have everything up for the Zoom. We've got the screen presentation and stuff, so I think we're ready to go. So with that, I want to welcome you on a very hot day, but it's going to get hotter. So if you're not out of PG&E power, you may soon be. That's the unfortunate part of it. So, okay, so with that, let's go ahead and do our leadership roll call, leadership team roll call. And let's start with John Davey and just move around this way. So if you just briefly tell us what your role is up here.
What my role is. I'm John Davey. I'm the chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. We're a group of resident volunteers that look at proposed development in El Dorado Hills and provide feedback to the development process.
And I'm Supervisor George Turnbull of District 2.
You are?
Oh.
No, you are.
Okay. You, John.
Thank you, sir. John Raffslier. I was appointed by George Turnbull. I represent the folks in District 2.
I'm John Heidel, District 1 Supervisor.
I'm Cindy Mudd, Supervisor Heidel's assistant, and I do community information and outreach for the council.
So let's identify volunteer commissioners or committee members that are present with us, and then we need to look. You have the ability to pull up the screen. I can do that while we're talking. So
I'm sorry.
let's start with Raylene and then Tita, and that's all we have in the room. So
You got me?
oh well, you already introduced yourself. You want to do it twice?
Yeah, I have two seats. I got two
Okay.
hats.
Well, do your second seat. I thought you were going to do them both. Go ahead, do your second seat, and then we'll do Raylene.
John Raffslier, volunteer El Dorado County Ombudsman, advocate for seniors in assisted living and in memory care under the auspices of the federal government. Thank you.
All right. So Raylene, if you got a microphone, you do. Good.
Raylene Nunn. I'm District 1's Supervisor Heidel Commissioner on Commissioner. And I am also a California senior legislator. I'm a senator for that legislation.
Tita Bladen, also on the El Dorado County Commission on Aging and also on the California Senior Legislature as an assembly member.
I'm just going to ask, since we don't have the Zoom connection up yet, so we can see it.
It's
You have it?
Bob Williams is on and nobody else.
Okay. So Bob Williams, would you please introduce yourself and what your role is? Even though you're not part of the leadership team right now, it's important to recognize what your role is.
If I can make sure I allow it. Bob, you should be able to unmute.
Having problems?
Maybe not.
You okay?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have my hand up, so I apologize. I have no comments. Thank you.
We just wanted to recognize that you're attending the meeting, Bob.
Oh, okay. I was on another meeting at the same time, so I appreciate that. So keep cool, everybody. Thank you.
All right, very good.
And I just want to say that Bob Williams is he works for building and he's my commissioner for building and planning.
All right, and I think that probably does our introduction. So with that, we'll move on to item 2, adoption of the regular meeting agenda. Is there anyone on the leadership team who has any proposed changes to the meeting
are using today's
agenda?
ruling to open the
All right,
floodgates
seeing
on
none,
meetings.
it's
Articles about
accepting it as
brutality against
proposed.
seniors.
So we'll move on to item 3, public
So,
comment.
Ms. Sotomayor,
This is a
writing for
period of
dissent,
time where
when
anyone
a
who's
president
present,
uses
either
official
on
power
Zoom or
in
in
any
the
way,
conference room
majority's
here,
reasoning,
can
he now
present an
be
item
insulated
to
from criminal
the
prosecution.
leadership team that's
Orders
not
the
on the
Navy
agenda. So if you want to speak to something on the agenda, we'd have to wait until we get to that point.
Organizes the
But
military
items,
through the horns
comments,
power.
questions
Immune.
for some
Takes
for
a
items that
bribe in
are not
exchange
on
for
the agenda
pardon.
would be entertained at this point. We
Immune.
just ask that you make sure you have a microphone,
There wasn't just
the
so
green light on it,
open
because
the
that's the way
discussion
we
to referee
allow
principle
our Zoom participants to hear your comments. So anyone who would like to comment during our public comment period. Not seeing anyone in the room. Let's see if we got anybody.
No hands on.
No hands raised. Participants up. Okay. attendees. Okay, so with that, we're gonna move on to item 4. Our guest speaker, and it's my pleasure to introduce Nikki Moeszinger. She's our Chief Fiscal Officer, otherwise CFO, of the El Dorado County Probation Department, and she's been involved with the Opioid Lawsuit Settlement. And for those of you who don't know, similar to the tobacco settlement that was done years ago, there was an opioid settlement that El Dorado County participated in along with other counties and cities. We were fortunate to get an award, the first award of many. So we have gotten those monies in, and we did a determination, actually a solicitation of inputs, and then determined who was going to receive monies in various amounts for this first award period. And I'm pleased to say that our Sheriff's Department is receiving money for their program. SHIELD is the name of their program, and Nikki's going to talk about that. So that's directly helping our youth understand what drugs can do, and one pill can kill is kind of the concept that our sheriff has said. And then there's also money going to our probation department because they have a major role in this as well from the county services perspective that Nikki will be able to explain in more detail. So with that, we'll turn it over to Nikki, and welcome.
Thank you, council members, for having me. Good evening, everyone. As Supervisor Heidel explained, I am the Chief Fiscal Officer for the El Dorado County Probation Department. I'm just going to get my presentation up here real quick. And a little bit about me. I've been with the department for 17 years. I've grown up in El Dorado County and consider it my lucky day starting in probation. I started on 7/7/07. So anyways, that's enough about me. I'll introduce you to the probation department real quick. For those of you who don't know, our mission is truly providing public safety through collaborative partnerships, innovative practices in corrections with accountability and compassion. That's our mission, and that's what we do. And the way that we do that is with our employees. So as you can see by the slide on the screen now, our most valuable asset is our employees. That's from administrative professionals. We have clinical staff within our juvenile treatment center, all the way to our sworn deputies and managers. So our vision for El Dorado County and what we do is to create safe communities through changed lives. So a little bit of background. I believe Supervisor Heidel highlighted that, California has been a major recipient as far as the opioid settlement funds are concerned. So as you can see, the settlements are worth up to $26 billion, and California is set to receive $2.05 billion through 2038. The Department of Healthcare Services is administering this, and they're the oversight and monitoring entity for these funds. El Dorado County is a subdivision and is receiving those funds to be used for opioid abatement activities. Pull up my notes here. So I do want to highlight that the probation department is only one of 8 agencies receiving these funds. Our Health and Human Services Administration, Selena Drennan and Nicole, and I will never say her name right, Abrahimi Mukin. They're amazing and alerted us to this opportunity through our grants administrative analyst, Jerry Payne. They immediately reached out, and it was just really cool to work in collaboration through the application process with them. So special shout out to them. HHSA did their due diligence. This announcement of funds occurred in 2021, and they established a committee. They sent out a survey identifying 12, I might have that wrong, it might be 11 focus areas. There were 153 recipients, and those were stakeholders, community interest groups that had some stake in this. And basically that was prioritizing each one of those categories. Once they narrowed that down, you can see on the screen there's 5. They narrowed that down to 4 categories for the county. And that's kind of how the application was set up. So if you were speaking to those activities, that was gonna strengthen your application. So in all, they received 8 applications. The total request was for over 2 million, but this year one funding is only $1.2 million. So each applicant, rather than saying no to each one, they funded each request at approximately 60% of those requests. So those activities that these funds are geared towards: treating opioid use disorder, supporting people in treatment and recovery, connecting those who need help to the help they need, true connections to care, and addressing the needs of pregnant or parenting women and their families, including babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome. So now to talk about probation specifically, our opioid education program and the utilization of these funds is truly to facilitate connections for individuals, whether they are on probation or not. These funds are going to be utilized by meeting people in the community where they live, right? We have a tentative schedule set up for our outreach vehicle, and that's going to provide that access to key services and resources. And sorry, let me slow down a little bit here. You guys are making me nervous. Anyway.
Sorry.
Relax, this is a very, very
Right?
informal type of group, so yeah.
So specifically, it's these individuals that are increasingly vulnerable within that first 72 hours being released from the jails. They're often at risk or experiencing homelessness. They might not be accepted back into their homes that they were in prior to becoming incarcerated. By maximizing our collaborative partnerships with community health and public safety agencies through our opioid education program, we are going to position our outreach vehicle to truly meet people where they're at. It's a unique and innovative approach. It differs from traditional probation services in that we're going to be out there. We're going to be at the court. We're going to be at the library. And these are all things that, we just received this funding agreement through HHSA in May. So we have grand ideas for this and have the means to do it now. So this program, it will offer triage and referral services, provide opioid education, and provide additional resources to address vulnerabilities promptly by continuing our efforts toward achieving our vision of safe communities through changed lives. So moving on, goal 1 of our application and our program is to develop outreach education programming infrastructure. And how that's going to occur is we're going to hire a full-time health educator. We have one of these in our juvenile treatment center. I think we have 2 actually now. And the services that they can provide are so intensive and right at that first stage where people need it. And we haven't had that on the adult side from our department. So this is unique in that approach. We're going to partner with our public safety and community partner agencies. We're actually going out on Tuesday. I think we're having a trailer day. We don't have our trailer yet, but we'll be there to provide services to homeless individuals or people at risk that need services and be able to refer them through our department and make those connections alongside the sheriff's office, and alongside the El Dorado Community Health Center. As far as infrastructure goes, developing that location schedule, that's really important. So this vehicle is going to be moving throughout the county in those areas that have been identified as high risk for opioid use. So getting out to Georgetown, Pollock Pines, in Placerville. Our plan for Placerville is to create an MOU with the library and be able to be near the navigation center while it's still there. It's a quick walk from the jail. We'll coordinate with the jail on release days, and then also be able to park it downtown. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to park a 27-foot trailer in downtown Placerville, but being there at the court is a huge missed opportunity for our department. We're located in Shingle Springs. If we can come to the people, that service and accessibility is going to make all the difference. So, okay, Part of our implementation is going to include training for staff, purchasing necessary equipment. I'll go into more detail on the budget later, and providing transportation. And that really is interesting. You know, people might be like, why are you doing that, right? That's one of the biggest security issues, right? Is getting somebody to where they need the services. So that was an important part of our plan. You'll see it's mentioned in each of our goals. So moving on to goal number 2, measuring impact, building communication, and increasing access to services. So each of these items takes a lot of coordination. We're going to be talking to the jails. We're going to be creating platforms where it's not just our probation clients that are being served. It's actual people, members of the community, whether it's a family member that might be experiencing opioid use disorders, and they want some materials or help or ability to connect referral services. We need to have a mechanism to record that, right? We're going to be measuring how this program works. And so making sure that we're not just caring about the probation involved, we're caring for anybody who steps on that outreach vehicle and needs service. You'll see they're developing processes for notification of pending release dates. Currently, our staff monitor assigned probation clients through the jail's RIMS system. And so creating something more efficient in that manner will be helpful in ensuring that we're in the right spot at the right time. You know, if someone's getting released on a Friday afternoon, how do we meet them at the jail? I don't want to read all the slides to you, but yeah. Again, goal number 3, reducing stigma and connecting individuals at their most vulnerable times with services and resources directly in the community. Making sure that we are able to provide naloxone distribution, administering, like training for family members. I know that's a big deal for folks that have family members that are experiencing opioid use disorders. You know, there might be some trepidation in actually administering naloxone. And so being able to train people in that. Leaving flexibility in our actual mobile unit schedule. So what if we find that being at the court on Monday isn't necessarily the spot that that vehicle needs to be? We've got to be in Georgetown. You know, we're going to be monitoring all of those things throughout the development of this program. So performance measures for our grant. Obviously, you can see we're going to be reporting on a number of items, and that includes how many individuals are engaged by the health educator, what locations we're serving, and what that population looks like how many people in one day can our folks actually see. How many referrals are received, connections to other agencies, whether that's Health and Human Services, social services, anything, you know, and then being able to transport, how much transportation is actually required to make this a successful program. The other thing is we'll be developing our own opioid use disorder materials and working in collaboration with HHSA to develop that so that we have pamphlets, we can have tangible items to hand out, and then working alongside our social media team so that people know, hey, the probation bus is going to be out and in our area. Maybe we can go down there and check it out and see what's going on. Budget. This is my specialty. So we, again, like I said, we'll hire 1 FTE health education coordinator. The equipment that we think that we will need is 2 GTAC computers. Those are rugged tablets, so like they get dropped or extreme temperatures, they're not going to fry, and we'll still be able to use them. We have those in our current vehicles in operation for the department. Cradle Point, just to be able to access all of the county resources for IT. GPS, satellite radio, if we're out in a remote area that you can't necessarily get service, we need to make sure not only for the safety of our clients, but the safety of our officers as well. Supplies, mileage, and fuel. We're going to be driving a truck with a 27-foot trailer behind it and occasionally driving that up to Tahoe to make sure that everyone is accessible, right? Printing services, like I mentioned before, pamphlets and resources that we can hand out and have readily available for anyone who comes to visit us. Bus passes, we already use bus passes through our community corrections center, and it's been very helpful. So if someone's coming to our office in Shingle Springs, we're able to get them back up to the court or wherever they might need to go to make it back and forth from their home to the department if they don't have a vehicle or don't have someone to give them a ride. Specialized opioid recovery training for all staff involved with this vehicle. It's not just the health education coordinator that's going to be providing service. They're going to be working alongside our probation officers and whoever else we can get to come work with us. And so making sure that everyone is fully trained is incredibly important. So can't really see it very well on the screen, but we are receiving $192,000 for our first year of this program. Like I mentioned, year one, this is a big deal for us, and it takes a lot to get things up and running. So as I mentioned, the board approved our MOU for the funds on May 21st. We are entering a new fiscal year, and so those funds are accessible today. We've already begun the recruitment preparation. It takes a lot to hire someone, so that's going to be one of our top priorities is getting somebody in place. And then that posting should occur late this month, and hopefully we'll move through all the background process fairly quickly. Like I mentioned multiple times, our probation department is receiving an outreach trailer, and this is a 27-foot trailer that has a bathroom on site. It's got an exterior shower capability. It's also going to be used for outreach events. You'll see us at the fairs and that kind of thing, but specifically for this is how we're going to mobilize this program. And that's really exciting because we haven't had that before, and this trailer is state of the art. The amount of programs we can offer on site is pretty astounding. So it's got room for group meetings and therapy. It's got room for individual case management services. We can test people. We can drug test people on the rig, and so I can't wait. I should be here within the next week and a half. So let's see. Again, we're purchasing equipment. It's July 1st. Every department's like, "Yay, I have money now." We're going to be working with HHSA on the material distribution, developing our schedule of locations. I know I mentioned those spots before, those high need areas, Pollock Pines, Georgetown, Placerville, and then moving the rig up to Tahoe. We'll tentatively, I think we're at twice a month. We would be moving it up to Tahoe to provide that same level of service up there until we can get a second vehicle set up, maybe something of a smaller scale. Let's see. The other main point I should have highlighted before is that probation is collaborating with those 8 other recipients. Again, we're partnering with the sheriff's office. We're partnering with Marshall Cares, Barton, Mountain High Recovery, and Recovery in Action. And that's something that, if you have questions about it, we can speak to it more later. But it's exciting because these funds are specifically to target and hopefully reduce impacts of opioid use disorders. And if we're all working together, that's just that much more we can achieve. So I've reached the end of the presentation. This is my contact information, Jerry Payne, who's our administrative analyst, and that is our chief. So if you have any questions, feel like I moved through that way too fast, please let me know, and I can email between you or call, whatever. So.
Leadership team, first of all, any questions for Nikki? Yeah.
I'll jump in real quick. So your funding's in place for this year, and yay, it's July 1st, so spend wisely. And so is there some question going forward about what might be available in the future? If there's some success with the program, is there a possibility that there's other funding sources or something that could contribute more to sort of perpetuate it?
We have an amazing grants analyst who is proactively looking for other ways to fund. The other thing is that we're trying to leverage our other funding streams to support this also. There is an option for year 2 funding. We actually applied for the grant with a plan for, did we apply? It was 2 years, right? I couldn't remember if we did 3 in our initial plan, but like I said, they only had 1.2 million for year 1. And, you know, we're gonna see this money keep rolling in. I think I mentioned it's rolling in until 2038. And I'm excited for what HHSA is gonna be able to do with that collaboration with all of these agencies. I think that we will be successful. I don't have a doubt that we won't be, so.
The other thing, just to add to that, my understanding is there's a second round of opioid settlement stuff coming. up
Yes,
in
there is.
Discussion right now, so that may bring even more resources in the future if we team with other counties and pursue it. So I think that's gonna open the door for even more capabilities in terms of reaching out and getting to the right people at the right time.
I have a question.
Yes.
I think you said you were going to use libraries as a place. Now, libraries are a meeting place for mothers with their children. What kind of security are you going to provide? What kind of security are you going to provide where you have people who have this problem? They could be homeless and have this problem, and now they're in the same building or the same facility with mothers, infants, young children. I mean, I think that could be a big factor in this kind of a program.
Your point, I think that you're correct. But all of our officers are sworn, and all of our adult field officers are armed at this point. They do have tasers and guns. Not that that's where we want to go with this, but they are actual peace officers. So security will be right on site with our health educators. And additionally, the sheriff's office is also providing security for those areas as well, specifically in Placerville. Now, when I'm saying they're going to be at the library, they'll be in a parking lot. It's not necessarily they're meeting inside a library. Okay. But again, those things will be ironed out in the MOUs with the library. We've initiated conversations with the director at this point, and so it's just a matter of getting that on paper.
All right, just one other question. If I'm lined up in front of your trailer, how are you going to protect my privacy? People are going to say, hey, there's John. He's standing by that and he's going in for opioid treatment. How are you going to protect a person's privacy using your trailers, using your trailer?
That's something that our health educators are licensed professionals. That's one thing. 2, it's voluntary. We're not asking them to come on the trailer if they don't want to. So they can come meet us at our office. We can provide transportation there. I think that those things, you know, things will come up like that. And, you know, if they're assigned a probation officer and, you know, they're going to have that initial contact and the ability to say, no, I don't want to meet you on the trailer. I want to meet you at your office. Yep. Yeah.
Nikki, is there a phone number you could recommend now that if somebody knows someone who needs access, that they could contact to get the process started? Because we have so many different agencies involved and websites, but is there a phone number you could recommend? Because that's usually where a lot of things start, is with a phone call.
So there is.
Okay.
So initially that, the community hub.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And we have that printed on the back of all of our business cards as well.
Yep.
Like I said, we'll have communication tools.
So
and
community hub
services.
number, okay.
Yes, the community hub number is the initial space.
Yeah.
Each of the hubs, okay.
Great.
But you can also call the probation department and we can route your question appropriately. So
Cindy, do you have any other?
Well, I think what you were talking about with the trailer, I don't imagine it's gonna be like wrapped with something that says opioid trailer or anything, right?
It's not.
It's gonna be very.
So-
People eventually will know what it's there for.
Yeah.
It's like when they gave out methadone and
Right.
things of that nature, and
So
there's a criminal element involved also with methadone, because, you know, that.
our vehicle literally says community outreach resource and engagement. And it's got a big, huge basketball hoop on the side of it. So we can use it for outreach and engagement. It doesn't necessarily have giant badges on it saying, hey, we're law enforcement, but we're public safety and law enforcement agencies. We do both. Yep.
Very good. So questions from anyone in the conference room or in the audience? And just, yeah,
Do we
please use one of the microphones. Bill, you gonna go? Okay.
I am gonna go. Hopefully I pressed the right button, you know? Anyway, hi. Nikki, great presentation. I'm Bill Knox. I live in Four Seasons along with, Mr. Rasslier. The, the question that I have, and pardon the awkwardness of this question, I think you've explained the probation department fairly well, but what I'm thinking about is that, you know, people who are, let's say, on the edge, before they get to, before they are, before they go to law enforcement, or they get into prison, or they go to jail, or they become in trouble. Does, how else can I put this? Does your probation department get involved with those people, helping them to guide their way the proper way?
That's what we're trying to do.
Good.
This-
Thank
this
you.
program, that is a mainstay of
Okay.
it. It's not just for probation individuals. This
Okay.
is for those that are legally. This is hopefully for those, I actually have a personal connection to somebody that recently, was diagnosed with opioid use disorder. Family
Okay.
didn't know it. He was high functioning. He, great parent, all the things, right? And then came to that point of desperation. And I kind of like to imagine that had we been out in the community, maybe this is somebody that would see the rig, say, hey, what do you guys do? And maybe they take that pamphlet home and go, you know what? I really do have a problem. And somehow, maybe it's not even us connecting them. Maybe it's they run into, you know, one of our agency partners
Sure.
and they're able to actually make those connections and catch it before it gets worse.
Thank you.
Of course.
Very good. Anyone else? Yeah, Pat.
Oh, you get that. Okay.
I'm Pat Chris. I live in El Dorado Hills. You know, a lot of churches are the places that the 12-step programs meet, including 12-step programs for narcotics addicts. Our church, St. Stephen's down the road, is allowing 4 evenings a week for 12-step programs. And one of the problems is these groups have very little money. They're not highly organized, but they are, for a lot of people, very effective. And yet they have a struggle trying to find places to meet. The CSD rooms are too expensive. The school rooms are too expensive. The churches cannot give them 7 nights a week for access. The AA program asks for 5 nights a week at our church, and we would not have any time for our own members to use their own facilities for evening events. Are you reaching out to these voluntary 12-step programs for narcotics users? And how are you going to screen those users? Is it going to be opioid addicts only? Or are you going to say, okay, anyone who is addicted to anything in the way of illegal drugs is accessible or can use and access these programs? There must be a medical evaluation of some kind going on. And I wish you would really try and work with some of the existing volunteer groups and help them find locations where they can have regular meetings and even subsidize them if that's what it takes. And I don't know if you're aware of any other agencies that are trying to do that.
So to answer your question, yes. The other thing is this funding opportunity is for anyone who can provide those services. So I would encourage you to look at the next round of funding and what the requirements are for that also, because if there is an organization that's providing that, they might be able to access some of these funds. I don't know how that works with the church being a nonprofit, but
It wouldn't be the church doing it.
It's volunteers. Yeah.
It would be the organization asking to use the facility.
So like
Which-
recovery in action.
I don't even know that they have names. There's sometimes groups of individuals with very little structure and no legal organizational paperwork.
That might be a problem. But,
It is a problem, but some of them are very effective.
exactly. So,
Very good. Anyone else? I'm not seeing any hands raised. You're not seeing anything either, John, right? Okay. So Nikki, we want to thank you for the great presentation. I think it was very thorough. It gave us a big picture of where the county has gotten to and what's in the future. And I think, like you said, it's really a health and human services oriented project to start with, and behavioral health. Nicole is a big part of that. So some of those questions I think could be referred to her. She may have more knowledge of the various programs they have working with volunteers and smaller groups, and see if we can't get all that coordinated. But yeah, the fact that you're willing to get back with Pat is very helpful, and we'll get you the best answer we have. But groups that aren't structured and organized, they're just individuals, make it very difficult for the county to try to help facilitate something, because in general, there's no continuity and there's no dedication of resources. They appear, they do good work for a while, and then they disappear. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's much better if they form a nonprofit or something, because then it can come into the El Dorado Community Foundation as a nonprofit. It gets notoriety. It gets, respect from the standpoint if it's been recognized as a nonprofit, as opposed to individuals trying to do great things. There's generally a limitation of what government can do to assist people in that mode. So, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that as well if you'd like. So I think you kind of understand the constraints, but there are avenues that can make that happen. So, okay. So again, thank you. Great job. Okay, so we're going to move on to supervisors' communications, and we do have a special presentation tonight as the first thing. This is something that came in just recently, but I was introduced to Jake's Journey Home. It's an organization that is focused on providing veteran services. It's a nonprofit, and I actually got introduced to this by the El Dorado Hills Chamber. But Jeanne Shuman is going to share with us what their mission is and the progress they're making, and then a little bit about their fundraiser that's coming up, because I would encourage everyone to participate in these things who feels the need to do that. My dad was a veteran. I wasn't, but I still, and my uncle was a veteran, but so I feel very, very strongly about supporting our veterans. So with that, Jeanne, and do a self-introduction if you'd like. Yeah, please.
Do you have the, no, I don't, do you have, you said you have it, and the, yes, that'd be perfect. That's, because I'm as,
I'll plug it in.
okay,
Get in there. Okay.
because I'm in as me, not as Kim. But now I'm able to get in, so I don't know what happened before.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
So for the
And then one more handbag.
Friday the 16th August. Yep.
So if you run into any places that have long vets, I could get in touch with them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Were you a veteran, Joan? I don't know if we've ever had that conversation.
No, no. It's funny. I think.
Got it. Thank you. There we are. Great.
My name is Jeanne Shuman. My mother is mine.
with a US Navy veteran, small business owner. He and I just worked together to pay veterans today, government services, and all the things that they handle. Jake passed in 2021. So Jake's journey home, I had to figure out what I was going to do after the loss of the child. Life wasn't working like that. So what would I do? I wanted to launch remember my son Jake, funding Jake's journey home, our nonprofit. And so we started very, very small. I put out donation bureaus all over the county, and then I made blankets. As my parents decided on set, so I made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blankets, and I collected hygiene products from the house and the community with our unhoused veterans. This is just some of the entities that we work with. We're well over 100 entities that come on board with us. So you have a piece of paper too. We'll have this on the site afterwards. These are just some of the things you do. It's pretty effective. But just these things that I would like to get inside. That we do for clean, provide assistance with court filing and criminal record content, court mandated community service. We're now taking people out of courts and out of the jail and having them do community service with us. Which you can kind of grab that. So that when we're done with the community service, they actually done with court. This is just for the last 6 months, we've had 3,440 interactions. And of that, of services, assistance, and essential provided, we have 1,570. We also have trailers that we use. It's fully equipped on the inside. We take it to every stand downs, or we take it out in the community where we do projects, where we showers and provide clothing. And it also allows us to interact, interface with our population, settlement steps, and getting into we're all just harking away, trying to do homelessness. The difference is the available support systems and common services. So this is one of our gentlemen. This is Ira. I met about 4.5 years ago on the trail. And I found out, I said, hey, what are you doing? And brought him into one of our meals. We offer meals 5 days a week and then our Saturday. And I brought him up there and he had a shirt on, so I saw his arm and he had a naked bird on the show. And this is a few months after I did that. What are you doing? Actually, black was on. What are you doing? And so here we are, 4.5 years later. Ira is permanently housed, brand new apartment. We got a vehicle donated to him from Gilmore Foundation. He has a full-time job and he's loving life. And the only thing that I can take away from this is I heard him from behind and he said, my advice to you guys is just do what she says. Good things will happen. He actually used another word, as you can see, but good things happen. Okay. So this is, these are just some of the pictures, flat-lawn trees. I think the most beautiful thing in the world is watching the light come out of someone's eyes after they've been lost in the dark for so long. So this is another one of my children. This is Joe. Joey suffered trauma, as we read. Well, I'll have you away from that trauma. Trauma can be anything that you feel, right? You lose your job. You have a pandemic. You lose your job, you lose your house, you lose your car, you're on the street. All of us are just our feeling. My son Joey, he suffered a trauma at 7 years old. From that point on, I had him in out of mental health, and I was grasping to try and help him. I asked him to come up in my program. He was located in Southern California. I asked him to come up in my program in July of 2021. And I always told my son, no matter what shape you're in, I want to hear from you every day. I said, because my biggest fear is that it will attack our walls, right? so many more people that are living in our houses, that are living on our streets, that are living in our hospitals, that are like Joe. And those are the people that we work very hard to interact with on a daily basis. Build a trust because they don't trust the system. And we build a trust and we help assess them and we follow through with all the programs. Because we find that a lot of the programs, they say, oh, we'll have them for a year, and they bring them in for a year. They go through a year, and at the end of the year, they walk out and it's not worse. They just come out of the program same as they were at the beginning. So what we try to do is we do releases of information for people. They come in, they go into their program, we do a form handoff is what it's called. And then we call all the time because we want to make sure that as they get to certain points in the program, 3 months, do they have their ID now? Do they have their social security card? Do they have their, all these things that they need to get a job and to get certified? And we keep following them through. When they're at that halfway mark, we start thinking, well, what are they going to do? Are they capable now if they're cleaning soap? Are they capable of getting a job? So we start thinking about job skills. If not, we have to think about, are they disabled? So we apply for services for that. And then as they're on their last round, a month out, we start looking for permanent housing. If they're not quite ready for that, then we look for transitional housing, which moves them into a program where they live, they're working, saving money, and then at the end of that program, they're able to move into permanent housing. It's very difficult to take somebody off the streets that is filled with trauma, whatever that looks like, and hold it out. It's just not, we have never seen it be successful. Handholding, because a lot of these people have suffered trauma at an early age. Like I work with a bunch of teenagers. So we have to help them, we have to guide them, we do instruction, and that's what we do. I just wanted to invite everyone. This is, we do one fundraiser here, but we know it's time to do anything else other than one job. So this is our event that we have. It's on Friday, August 16th. It's going to be at the local community center. And we run a raffle. And you're also going to learn more about what we do. And I see some of the people that we work with and how they push on. We have many things that we want to do. Eventually, we'd like to do, we are a mobile assist center, so we go meet folks where they're at. We want to have a permanent assist center that is for the community, not just strictly for now, but for everybody. Because you have a lot of people that live in an apartment or a house and don't have cars, they can't afford. They haven't had more food, they can't afford shower, lots of things. So as a center for a community, everyone's able to use it. And so we have, we have plans, we have ideas, but at this point we're mobile and people don't reach out. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Jeanne. So any questions from the leadership team?
Oh, thank you for what
Great
you're doing.
program.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Amazing.
dedication. Anyone in the audience? Yeah, thank you. You have something? Yes.
My name is Nicole Shuman. I'm actually Jeanne Shuman's daughter, and a couple comments came up, and I think it was a great segue to go from Nikki's presentation to ours because it's showing in action what it can be like when you have partnerships with the county and nonprofit organizations, boots on the ground that are fostering and creating those trusting relationships with what would be either future clients or current clients of the probation department, or what, hopefully don't end up in the probation department's hands. And so this just goes to show the power of community organizations, faith-based or not, but those that are on the ground doing the good work for the community. And I think this organization is definitely one that would benefit from the grants as such. So I would hope that everyone in attendance today reaches out, asks questions, because we're doing a lot of great things in the Folsom community and beyond. And we're so grateful and honored for the opportunity to speak and share what we're doing for the community here at the El Dorado County Community Office or Community Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just mention also that we were able to connect Jeanne with David Zielinski, who's part of our Veterans Affairs Commission, because he's trying to do a similar level of work, and he gets involved with a lot of the legal aspects of things in the courts and that sort of thing, but trying to find housing for the veterans that need it, trying to get them into rehab when they need it. So great efforts by a number of different groups, but yes. So anyway, they're connected. So hopefully there'll be some sharing of information, and yeah. All right, well, thank you again. Really appreciate it. So with that, we're gonna run through fairly quickly kind of the status of some of these ongoing projects. Costco, El Dorado Hills, mixed use. I'm understanding there's still activity going on there and there should be announcement in the near term. But until certain things happen, we can't share any more information, but hopefully by August meeting, we'll be able to share more of what's going on there. Yes.
Well, because our products are in Costco.
Yes.
First of all, it's ridiculous.
But I heard that it's a no deal. And if they did put it one, and they wouldn't put the gas station like they did, was it Loomis? The one in Loomis, they did put a gas station. They don't have the room for it. It's not really zoned for that. But I heard I'm surprised to hear it's still ongoing because from what I've heard, and we know buyers and stuff so hopefully you'll have good news that they decided to pass on it and build like a professional building of some sort, or doctor's offices or something more conducive to the area than big trucks coming in and unloading in the middle of the night. Really consider that project, the docks. It's a 24/7 operation you can't have that next to the school, wherever they turn around. It's just, I know we have the interchange, they love our interchange, but maybe more up the hill. I don't know, it doesn't seem like a fit for that area.
Yeah, and the original project as proposed, I would tend to kind of agree with you, but there's a different activity going on now that hopefully will be announced soon. And then you'll understand the bigger picture as it has changed. So as soon as we get the information that we can share that, we will. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised on that on anybody online. So Town and Country Village, they're still proceeding with their draft environmental document, impact report. So that's in progress. I haven't heard of a date that that'll be completed. AKT Community Health, we still have not received a formal project application is what I understand. So I'm guessing that there's some changes going on there, but nothing new that we can share at this point. There is something new on the next one, the Elder Generations at Green Valley Road. The county notice of availability of the draft EIR came out just recently. After I put the agenda together, it's what happens when you put an agenda together, then something pops. So that is available for the public review. I'm sure it's on our county website, the project website. I don't know I'm assuming it's on APAC.
On APAC when it was released, yes.
Okay, all right, so you can go to any number of places to look at that draft EIR for Generations. It's a fairly sizable project. It has several changes associated with it. So yeah, we'll take on entertainment more. Okay.
For that, and that's really why I came, because I live in Aberdeen Lane.
Yeah.
And I'm working with our neighbors to ask them if they must build there, that they just really redo the whole thing. It's too many houses too close together. But my question is, this EIR report, when you read it, DEIR available, what does it
Draft.
exactly mean? Does it just go through all the hoops that they have to pass through, like the environmental, all the traffic? So is that in the
State requirement, it's CEQA, California
Right, of
Environmental
course.
Quality Act, right?
So they have to abide by, and they have to be able to meet all those different categories, correct?
The intent is to identify impacts.
Okay.
And of those impacts that can be mitigated, because some like air quality can't be, we're in an area of non-attainment, zone of
Right.
non-attainment, so we have to, but where you identify an impact and it can be mitigated, they're supposed to be proposing the appropriate level of mitigation. And that can be expanding a roadway, it can be putting in a sound wall, it can be doing any number of things, but
Is that what's in the report, like
That's-
all that they,
no.
this is what, so
that's
this is
what's in the
what they need
report.
to do?
Here's an impact and here's the mitigation.
Here's what they're proposing to fix the problem that we're bringing to their attention.
And sometimes those proposals are not adequate. I mean, the public and the planning commission, the board of supervisors says, well, you took care of part of it, but there's another piece of this that needs to happen. So it's not final. That's why we wait until we have a final EIR when all of the terms of the mitigation activities are determined. The planning commission can also put certain types of conditions on a project in addition to what was in the EIR mitigation when they feel that's necessary. That can get passed, it can be challenged. So anyway, we're in that process of public review leading to a planning commission hearing and then ultimately getting to the board of supervisors. So you want to add something, John?
Do I? No,
I don't know,
the
do you?
answer, the answer is no, because we're knee deep in draft environmental impact reports right now. Marble Valley, Lime Rock Valley, Green Valley, the Generations. So with Generations Green Valley, so they had their scoping meeting here in this building in March. And 107 days later, now we have a draft environmental impact report. So that kind of tells me most of it was probably done before we had the scoping meeting. So we have an issue with that because the scoping meeting is supposed to inform how you proceed with your draft EIR. So the draft is there. They have their initial assessments and their analysis and what they propose for mitigation. We all make public comments. We have a 45-day comment period on this. We'll ask for another 15, but we might not get it. They're going to be, they will be at APAC on August 14th, but that's also 2 days after the end of the comment period. But they'll make a presentation. Have you gone to the public presentations they've done? So it'll be similar to that, I imagine.
Yeah, the funny thing is he kept saying, oh, he kept, everything he said was approved. I'm like, no. So he was called out by Tara.
Yeah.
Kind of shady.
Well, so
They really want to develop that product because the guy that owns that line, he wants his money, and apparently there's trailers in there. He wants to develop it, but it's too much. I'm not saying they don't develop it, but why don't you put 1 or 2 acre parcels with that many homes?
Yeah.
It's
So
a
they're
projects.
I guess not to review the project tonight because we're still working on it, but yeah, the Dixon Ranch proposal was very dense. It was dense. It was different zoning densities right up against existing, yeah. So their approach this time is to take a buffer on anything that's touching a rural region. A rural region is going to be buffered with a similar, not exactly the 5 or 10, but 3 acre. And so that's their approach this time and make it more dense on the inside. They also have an age restricted component as well. So, but on the draft EIR, you make your comments. Any comments you put in, as long as they're related to the environment, they will provide you an answer. You might not like the answer, but that will come with the final. And then your opportunity again to comment on the final. And then when it gets to the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, you have opportunities then to say, so right now you're talking about which concerns are about the impacts and the environmental primarily. Once it gets into the approvals process, then you could say, I don't like this project. Because right now, you could put that in your response to the draft EIR, and they'll say, hey, thank you for that, we'll pass it along, but it's not environmental in nature. So your comments on the draft EIR should be about the impacts.
Specific impacts
Yeah.
that you see that haven't been,
Yeah.
or the mitigations that are proposed that are not adequate. That's
Not
the
just
other thing.
saying I don't like it, but just clearly the facts of
Yeah.
Greenville not being able to handle it. There's no shoulder on either side. There's not enough fire exits. We don't want that gate. Our gate for Aberdeen, unlike the other ones that are locked, is a pressure gate. You just roll up and come in and out. Once people know that they can come down Aberdeen and get to Silva to go to Town Center, they're not going to go out to Green Valley. Come on now, that's not going to happen. So this project is flawed, and we're going to keep fighting it. We're getting together 3 neighborhoods together, and we are most likely going to get a retained attorney. We don't want this as it's planned to go forward, not nothing, but not as it's planned. Well, I'm just going to see how it plays out. So
Yeah.
the next meeting.
They will be here to make a project presentation, the applicant, on August 14th. They'll be at 6:30 here in this room. It's on Zoom, and we also stream it on YouTube, and we record the meeting like we do this one. But yeah, they're back for that. But they are at the Planning Commission, I believe, for a presentation of their draft EIR, just sort of here's the work we've done. I want to say it's July 25th. I might be wrong on that. It's on the APAC website. If you look, we have a post about the Planning Commission schedule. It's on the.
I saw something where they wanted everyone to show up downtown at the Planning Commission at 5 o'clock or something, a meeting. Next door is my resource.
I don't know about that one, but yeah. So they'll be at the Planning Commission to present the commissioners to say, here's our draft EIR that we worked on. You'll be seeing it for a formal review later. But they have opportunities to make little presentations along the way to keep,
as they go.
Yeah.
But I would suggest to balance the inputs you're getting, go to the county website, look at the project details, go to the APAC website, read the project, because a lot of the stuff on Nextdoor,
No, I understand.
it's not based in fact, it's based on a person's opinion, so.
If there's a hyperlink, I'm only going by that, not people's
Okay.
opinions.
All right, got it. All right. So there'll be a lot more, obviously, discussion on that, and I hadn't heard that the planning commission had a date on that, so. that's
It's
new to
like
me.
July 25th. No, July 25th might be Marble Valley. I'm not Marble, Town and Country. before they release their EIR. I know there are two of them in July.
Okay, all right, so we'll track that down and, if we can, we should put that into our minutes. The fact that the planning commission will have a hearing to get a presentation or whatever, if it's July 25th, the public should know.
I should probably tell you in about 40 seconds.
Okay,
Well, maybe 45 seconds. So, June 27th, last Thursday, the planning commission did their additional secret training. It's a workshop that they recorded so everybody could watch it. July 11th, Generations at Green Valley draft EIR presentation, July 11th at the planning commission. July 25th, Town and Country Village EIR presentation. August 8th, Marble Valley specific plan, Lime Rock Valley specific plan information. And that's through August. So that's what you're caught up with right now.
good, thank you. We need to put that in our minutes, so everybody gets the same information. So, okay. Anything more on that? I'm not seeing any hands raised. So I'm gonna move on to one that's not on the list because I think it's important before I turn the page on the agenda, because El Dorado County is opening up cooling centers starting tomorrow because of the high heat wave that's going through. I think most of us know that the El Dorado Hills Library is a county cooling center. It's gonna be open Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And they don't list the hours on that one, but we have one in Cameron Park, we have one in Georgetown, but Placerville, they list the days and the hours. And then the El Dorado Community Health Center is offering its lobby as a cooling center. So if you know of somebody that doesn't have air conditioning, or their air conditioning breaks down and they're a senior and they need to get someplace that's cool, the cooling centers are set up for that kind of use, right? So there's various centers. We'll put that out in the minutes as well, where those, because that just came out today. And right now it's scheduled to run from July 1st to the 6th. It may be extended.
Yeah, but I'm gonna add to that. Also, they're looking at Pioneer Park too as a cooling centers, because I talked to Carla House today. That I wanted to make sure they put that in place, because a lot of the residents in Grizzly Flat are living in RVs. And they don't have the adequate cooling that they need. So at least there'll be a place for them to go there. So.
We know that Serrano, certain parts of Serrano or El Dorado Hills has had 2 power outages 2 days in a row, right?
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
So, if you're talking about a senior that isn't gonna do well for multiple hours when that temperature just rises in the house, think of inviting them to the cooling center if you can't, invite them to your home, so that they get the care and attention they need, because that's the last thing we wanna do is have people not feel like they have to just stay there and sweat.
Yeah, and the other part,
forever.
sorry, the other part of that too is that, PG&E will remind us, and Pioneer Power, is that, if there's a question if the power's gonna be on, you should probably do your cooling early to get your house as cool as you can. It's not inexpensive, but it might be a little more inexpensive than doing it at the end of the day. And also when the demand's high, you might lose the power. So if you can cool your house off in advance, it helps. So fingers crossed.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on. The last item under supervisors was the business park, and George, you're welcome to comment on this if you like. Gateway project. We
Yeah,
do
the
have a
Gateway
fact sheet
project,
that
I mean, there's
describes
been
it.
a lot of discussions going on with the Gateway project right now, and reaching out to Scott Hudson. And some of the different ideas and proposals and John knows a little bit about it, and we're trying to get all this figured out and stuff like that. Can't really talk about it, but he's possible that he's gonna come back to the board or the building and planning and ask for a J6. So anyway, so it's ongoing is what it is. So we're trying to get all the facts and everything and straightened out first.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I know that, people from Four Seasons, people from Heritage have been meeting together with people. For example, we have a retired transit engineer, traffic engineer, and we're looking at ways to calm the traffic down that would come up Carson's Creek. Carson's Road is supposed to be a connector between 2 senior communities. And some of the things that we came up with are, like speed bumps or something I never heard before, a speed hump. And also, and then also to restrict trucks of a certain weight that they can't go down.
Exactly.
So those are all of the things that we talked about in the event that we really can't get the developer to change some of his plans for that property. And I'll kind of like leave it at that.
Well, one of the things that I proposed is I think they need to look at roundabouts or a traffic signal, but not have it where they want to propose it. Because it should be where Carson Creeks comes in with his project, because there's going to be a road, if it does, it's going to be put in, up, it goes up, intersects into Latrobe Road. That would be a perfect place for a signal light or a roundabout, but also on the other end of Carson Creek. Because these guys have a hard time getting out of Four Seasons. And that's what they need, either a roundabout or a traffic signal there. So that's something we could push to make sure that this gets done, so.
Yeah. You know, it's not only that, you have, because this road is basically connected between two senior
Right,
communities.
exactly.
You have people walking early in the morning, especially now with the heat. You have people on bicycles who are using this area, and you don't want to have big semi-trailers using a single lane road going each way, especially bad heritage.
Right, exactly.
So,
Anyway,
Okay,
some of the
more-
things
more
we're
to
working
come
on.
that one, yeah. See it. Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
I think these are all valid points. George, thank you for that. My question is, and to John, either John.
Well, there's
Three
two Johns here.
Oh, that's
Two
right.
George and three Johns.
Three Johns.
Johns, too
Yeah,
many
right.
Johns.
I go by Hey You.
That's the problem you have
Hey,
most
you.
of the time. There's not enough restrooms anywhere, but anyway, go ahead.
That's good. When these points or questions are raised, which are very valid, what is the reception that is indicated from these people, from the developers? Is there any indication that, oh, these are very, very valid points? Or hell no, we don't care? I mean, what's your sense on this?
Well, my sense, I've talked to him, and John's has too, but the sense is it's actually, he even recommended putting a roundabout right in that area coming up Carson Creek in his project, the road that's going, or a stoplight, a traffic light. Because it would be more feasible there than put it, which is gonna be like 150 feet, I forget what the name of that road is.
Golden Foothill.
Golden Foothill.
Golden
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big issues and concerns that he has, because all it's gonna do is create more traffic congestion. So it's easier to do it down a little ways. It's actually better, especially for the residents that have to, for the school that's down there. That was one of the biggest problems, everybody parking in line to drop off their kids and pick up their kids. So it's a big concern. So this will help a little bit with the traffic congestion. Bob Williams and I have a meeting coming up. Bob had surgery. We're going to have a meeting actually sooner with Raphael, but that's been put on hold right now until Bob gets well. And then we can have that meeting to discuss these things and make sure that these things get done. That's one of my things that I'm going to really push. You're
So
welcome.
DOT has a tool called the traffic demand model. They can program all this stuff and look at it. They made some recommendations initially. They agreed to go back and evaluate other alternatives. But ultimately, that traffic demand model will determine where the most highest use of a roundabout or multiple roundabouts or stacking distance on Latrobe Road, what's going to be the most effective mitigation. So that's what DOT is starting to look at in more detail. But the Gateway project, the two warehouses that have been built now were all approved. They're in. There's 8 loading docks, not a number that people put out that was way more than that. That's only for the 2, right? There's 8 loading docks, and those are not going to be your traditional high turnover Amazon type of loading dock. It's going to be more of a commercial industrial type of loading dock in terms of the use. So I don't know the specific categories within the highway demand model and other tools that determine what the expected use is. But what DOT gave us was a lot more definition of what it should be, and they promised to put that in writing. I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either, and I've been pushing a lot
As
on
soon as
that.
we get that, we'll share that with the public. But
Yeah, exactly.
John, I just want to add to it. the developer of these projects develops warehouses that facilitate big distribution centers. This is what they do, okay? And people are saying, well, you know, if we look at the two buildings that they put up already, they don't seem to be building, the insides don't seem to have the loading docks and all those. Well, of course they don't, because that's just the shell of a building. They can put on the inside all the paraphernalia that has to go with a loading dock and take care of large trucks. So I would like to see, I think the people in APAC and the people in the communities would like to see, what are you actually going to service? What kind of companies are you going to service here? Are they going to be small companies, or what you usually service would be huge companies that have big distribution centers? So that's kind of like the whole thing.
I know that we all want to talk about this some more. Yeah, I was in logistics for a long time, and you know, I would rent and lease warehouses 100,000 square feet at a time, and we'd have 3 trucks, and that's what we would turn. And we would have 3 trucks that would go 24 hours a day from North Sacramento out to HP campuses in Lincoln, Rockland, Roseville. And so I know we looked at leasing space out here in the early 90s. It didn't work for us. It wasn't near where everything was. But yeah, in terms of distribution now, these buildings are not bigger than anything else that's in the business park. They're larger than what we've seen, but they're not bigger than like DST or some other things. I think primarily what they're looking at is they're building on spec. You know, see, we'll build these, like John Resler described, the shell buildings, and it could be 10 different things. But until you get a tenant, you don't know what the thing is. So I think
what can turn over quickly too. So
yeah,
there's
and
no
so
guarantees.
even if you had someone you signed to a contract, built the building, they could be successful and need a bigger building, or they could be unsuccessful and leave. So I know that there's been some talk of, Debbie Manning has said there's businesses here in El Dorado Hills that don't have enough room, and a tilt-up building is pretty flexible, that they could do like a dance studio, or you have 28 or 26 foot ceilings. They're not going to need them, but it would allow them to build that inside. So we don't know what it's going to be. I think what's alarmed the community is that the marketing materials that went out, and this is under a parcel split right now that hasn't been processed. So I think the community was alarmed when we had a discussion with the developer here in August last year, and I had a discussion with him the month before that. The discussion changes depending on what you're talking about. It's speculation, right? That's their business, is to build the spec building. So the marketing materials, I think, alarmed people. And what we're seeing now with the two buildings that went in that were approved ministerially, consistent with the R&D zoning, it's a little less intense than people had thought it would be. I mean, because they'd even talked about a lot of loading docks for that one, and right now they're not doing it. So, and there's different variations of that. You have roll-up doors where you can back up and load with the forklift, or you have a legitimate loading dock, which you pretty much have to build when you build the building. So it's very expensive to go back and do it afterward. So we don't know, but he's been engaged with us and with community members. Do you want to jump in real quick? And
I was just going to say that we are in discussions with the developer, and we're also looking at ways to mitigate the traffic if those discussions don't pan out the way the community may want them to pan out. In other words, maybe some kind of a mixed use that's there instead of 4 new warehouses. I did notice also in the business park, there's another huge warehouse being built now that APAC has never seen. So I'm just wondering,
I'll get the address and look.
That'll be it for me. Thank you, John. Thank you, George. I have to go.
All right, John.
Energy level is.
Okay,
Nothing?
understand. Go
All
get
right,
your rest.
Go get some rest. I'll see you
Yeah,
later.
take care.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Stay cool, okay? Stay
All
cool.
right.
Yes.
I'm gonna try if they don't cut my electric.
All right, bye-bye now.
Okay, and I'm hoping with Chief Johnson
Thanks,
gives his report, he can talk about speed bumps and speed humps, because El Dorado Hills Fire Department has regulations that says no, that slows down our response time.
I'm talking to Chief Fields about
Okay,
Okay.
that's the right place to talk.
All right,
Because
okay.
not
We'll
any
see you later,
speed
John.
bump is gonna be allowed, in my opinion, but anyway. Okay, so let's move on to leadership team reports, and the first one is our safe and healthy communities. And I didn't see anybody from the Sheriff's Department or the CHP.
No.
Representative. So, yeah, Chief Mo Johnson, are you there? Can you go ahead and speak to us about the fire department's report this month?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Barely.
yeah, we need to turn your
Turn
volume
it
up a little bit.
yeah.
Let's see. My volume's turned all the way up here. Can you hear me better now?
We're all the way up here.
All right, so yeah,
Okay,
that's
go
it.
ahead.
So go ahead. Yep.
Okay.
Talk into
So
the
not
mic.
not a ton. Yeah, thanks. Not a ton of report from the fire department this month. It's been extremely busy with the fire season, both here locally and throughout the entire state. So when we look back in history, we look back to some of the more busy years, and this appears in every count to be starting off that way. So we've already had resources out up north, down south, and the fires are very aggressive. Fortunately for us, they've been spread out enough to where we've been able to get resources throughout the state on them fairly quick. But there were a few days where everybody was competing for resources, and we started to run out. There was no aircraft available, and that says a lot. So, been very busy so far. This is going to be a test for us the next week or so, with the relative humidities going down to extremely low, down to single digits, and temperatures rising to the triple degree mark, and that's going to be a big test for us as well. Training center is still going great down there. We've got a great response. With respect to classes, I think we're doing almost 100 classes a year down there from firefighters from all over the state. So that continues to be well. We help with are partnered with the Sheriff's OES and put on an active shooter event. Chief Lilienthal and Lieutenant Morton, who were the leads, they did an outstanding job and definitely one of the best drills and cooperative efforts I've seen in this county for a very long time. And that's the first time that we'd ever really did anything like that. So kudos to them. Kudos to the sheriff's departments, as well as, or the sheriff's office, as well as the county for even entertaining the idea of putting a firefighter and OES to help with that coordination. So I think it's worked out really well. With respect to speed bump, whatever we want to call them, traffic calming devices, is not that we're against them, but we believe that they slow down the response and they could potentially damage or injure firefighters. So there's several studies that are out there, and Chief Fields, you can certainly reach out to her to discuss the process more. But for every bump that there is, the report states that there's about a 9.7 second decrease in response time. And while that might not seem like a lot of time, think about stopping for a gate to open, stopping to clear an intersection, stopping to clear a bump or multiple bumps. You start to get to a half a minute or beyond, and that does mean life. Minutes, seconds equals life. And so we've held strong in developing a process. It's not a short process, but we want you to try everything else, and that is a last resort. And at the end of the day, if everything else has failed, we will consider that. We haven't got to that point just yet. So contact Chief Fields. There's a lot of things that we can do before we get to the speed bumps, speed humps, and other traffic calming devices, but we do have a process that's in place there. With that, I will stop and answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? I just have one. Did anybody from the department participate in the creek fire that was North County? Because that was scary. They did evacuations and they got it contained, I think, 15 acres or something. But boy, if the wind conditions had been a little bit different, it might have really just taken off. So did anybody respond to that, Chief?
We did. Great question. That was a phenomenal countywide response. And so we did have Engine 86 and Water Tender 85 from here in El Dorado Hills respond up. I went up as well to the ICP and then went over and just to check on our troops to make sure they were good to go. But that's the strength of the fire service here in El Dorado County, is that if there's a fire, you're going to get all the resources that we can bring to bear, and it doesn't matter what patches on your shoulder. So CAL FIRE did an amazing job in getting resources and aircraft overhead, and then local government, they threw everything we had at it, and then we stopped that fire from getting much larger. It was in a really bad location, and it had the propensity to take off on us. When you look at some of the camera footage, and I know there's lots of video footage out there, the camera footage was impressive. Typically, you see a big column of smoke. In this case, you saw large sheets of fire running up the hill, and it was, and that's from a couple miles away. It was pretty impressive.
Well, good stop, but,
Yeah.
fire season is
I
starting
know,
all
it's
over the
coming.
county. That's what I'm trying to make people aware of.
And
It's happening, so.
and kudos to Tri Fire because they responded to that and did a good job too, especially clearing and putting a fire break up. So anyway,
Yeah.
I want to, you know,
And one of
They
the things
did.
I like to do is there's an app called Watch Duty. If you've never looked at it, you can open it up and it's a map and it tells you what's burning in California. And it's size wise, so you can tell where things are burning. And it actually has a creek fire in there. Tells you it was 16 acre. There's other apps out there.
Looks just like that.
Yeah, but that's one of the ones I like is it's easy to just get a very, very macroscopic view of things. And then you can start looking at details if you want. So.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a big
actually
fire going on in
really,
Tuolumne County right now, right up on south of Highway 108. So more
yeah,
coming, right?
that's a really good
We have a
point. I
pool
mean,
pump.
Yes.
I recommend if you have a swimming pool, invest in the pool pump, get it ready, have it near the pool. And you will save your house.
don't
Yeah.
disagree, but just
I
remember, we
recommend
don't,
everybody do it. I have one. I got a regular pump and it's got a 2-inch hose. I got 200 feet and a 2-inch fire nozzle on it. And it'll shoot a stream of water probably about 300 feet. So
yeah,
yeah,
just
it
just
does
keep
help.
in mind that the
Betcha.
fire department does
limitations
not
you have to be
advocate
home.
you staying. We want you to, when
So, yeah,
when it's
if
time to
you're home a
go, it's
lot,
time to
you
go.
got it covered. But if you travel a lot or you work, during the daytime or something,
Well,
or in the office,
I've got somebody home, so I
there
don't
you
have to
go.
worry
You're
about
covered
it.
then. All right. But those are very handy devices. All right, so
Yeah.
let's move on since we've covered safe and healthy communities. Kathy's not with us either. So it's, let's go to APAC's report and then we'll just kind of move across here. So.
Okay. And while we were having a discussion about all the planning commission hearings, generations review has been postponed for a month. So there's no date yet. So that date we talked about July 11th,
It's not July 11th?
not anymore.
Okay, that's why,
So-
probably why I haven't been told of the date. Okay.
Well, so
Generations is TBD. Okay.
yes, standing by. So APAC, we're back here in this room next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. We've been trying to do this all this year, but we have, with all these projects coming up, it was hard to fit it in. But we have transportation only discussion with Director Rafael Martinez from the County Transportation Department. I imagine he'll have some of his staff here with us. I understand, I think Director Garner was supposed to be attending as well. Not confirmed on that. But talking about road issues and projects in El Dorado Hills and sort of the questions we have about, when something's added to the CIP, is it better to have it added before a project starts or after there's going to be a project, or how the mitigation impact fees work? So Raphael's going to be here to talk about all things transportation, because usually when we get him, we start locking him up and our meetings get really long. So we have a 2-hour meeting at 6:30 p.m. here in this room, also on Zoom and also streamed on YouTube. We do record the meetings. If there are updates, and right now I don't think there are any, if there are updates from our standing committees on environment or transportation, there'll be like a 5-minute update for those. And then of course the supervisors will be here to talk about, and the supervisors talk about. What I'm looking also too is that we'll let you know that we submitted our comments on the draft EIR from the Village of Marble Valley Specific Plan. Those comments went in last night, and I think one other set of comments went in this morning, but I did not get a reply that they went in. I still don't have a reply. So, and then the Lime Rock Valley Specific Plan, the public comment period on that draft EIR ends on July 22nd. So we have a couple more weeks and we'll be providing our comments on that. And what I want to say about that is that, we had 60 days for both of these to work on, which is the limit that's allowed by CEQA. Typically it's 45 days. They knew this is a big project, so they went for the full 60. That's what the law allows. And a lot of people have asked, hey, can we get more? Well, CEQA specifies you can have more than 60 in unusual circumstances, but they've never defined what unusual circumstances are. So to define unusual circumstances, someone would have to litigate that, and that's not what we do. So we're volunteers, and we're just trying to get our comments in. So, so we did have a presentation from the applicant for both Marble Valley and Lime Rock at our meeting it was June. Okay, last month. It was a day ago, but it was, we had it on June 12th, I believe. So we did hear from them. The schedule for the rest of this summer is that we expect, the generations at Green Valley will be here for our August meeting, and that's the 14th. And then in September, we had to move our meeting forward to, from September 11th to September 4th, and we probably reserved the room because I'll be moving a college student into a new house, and I run the Zoom and everything. So, but for that meeting, we're going to have the Town and Country Village El Dorado, the Mahana family project, 2 hotels, and the cottages that are on Bass Lake Road and Country Club. And it sounds like their draft EIR will be rather imminent as well. So, and then after that, Katie bar the door. We don't know what other projects, you know, we obviously will have to work on getting our comments in on all these projects. But our environmental committees are working very hard with the applicants for the Creekside Village project, which was a Project Frontier property. And, you know, they've gone back to probably about a 900 unit residential. There might be an age restricted aspect to that. They're still working it out, but they've been meeting in some cases multiple times a month with our volunteers. So it's a wonderful dialogue to have. We're very happy they're engaged and that they're trying to get input from us and let us know what they intend. And we're kind of trying to inform them as to what the public thinks, with the aspects of the impact. So very good relationship there with that project applicant. And so what I want to say about, we have all these draft environmental impact reports going on. If anybody wants to contribute anything, even if it's a single note that you want to say, hey, I have a question about this, and you want us to put it in our comments, our email address is on our website, edhapac.org. And forward those in and let us know what you have a question about, because if you don't want to prepare your own comments, we'll make sure to include your comments in ours. So, and we have a lot of them coming up, so we're always looking forward to having the residents here in our communities contribute where, when they can. So I think I've said enough.
I'm just gonna add one thing to that. I've heard public comments about, county's trying to move too fast on these things. We need to slow roll them. People need to be aware of what the state of California requirements are. The Subdivision Map Act gives the county certain timeframes at which you have to complete certain steps in a process once the application's been filed. So it's not like we can say, we're just going to stop on this and wait a while without due cause for the stop. So planning department, and Karen's here, she'll explain a lot of those things because the general public doesn't understand that.
Yeah, we've heard
We
that.
have to keep moving with things, even though there's 4 major projects being processed in the next 6 months, all at kind of the same time frame. You can't just say, we're going to slow roll these 3 and only deal with one of them.
So,
It doesn't work.
and to that, you'll be getting an email tomorrow.
Yep.
Sorry. Where, we've had a lot of volunteers say, hey, what does this look like? What does this look like? Why is it all happening at once?
Right.
We understand that an applicant puts in a project and the applicants are telling us it's not their desire to schedule. They're saying the planning department's telling us. Planning department staff are going, it's entirely when the projects are applied for and how their status is and when they're ready to move forward. I think what you'll see from us tomorrow or the next day, depending on our revisions, is that, we talked about the Central El Dorado Hills project, and, that was a big project with 1,000 units. Planning Commission had 4 hearings on that. Board of Supervisors talked about doing 2 hearings on that. We're talking about project on Marble Valley with Lime Rock with 4,000.
There's a reason why the continuation of the hearing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that, the draft EIR on Marble Valley and Lime Rock, the scoping meeting was held in 2013, 11 years later. We have a draft environmental impact report. We have 60 days to respond. Okay, that's the law. We understand that. And we respect that the department is working within the framework of what they're required to do by state law, by county ordinance and county policy. But we do want to ask, where are there opportunities to have maybe 2 planning commission hearings? Day 1, you talk about the project presentation from the applicant, you get your public comment in, and then the day 2, whether it's literally the next day, the next week, or the next planning commission hearing, where would it be possible to have the planning commissioners do the deliberation at that time? So it provides an opportunity for people to be engaged, provide comments, and feel like they're not, like as John described it, being kind of steamrolled. So we'll be submitting that comment planning department, and of course we'll CC the supervisors. But it is a concern that people have been asking about, and we would just like, and if Director Gardner is available to come to the meeting, we'd love to have her comment and spell out that response too. That's why we want to get the letter in advance of our meeting. So.
And some of my concerns, especially on these projects, especially right at the holidays. You know, and that's just, to me, it's not a good thing. It really isn't, so.
I mean, when people, let's say, I mean, they love our county, they just can't wait to develop the hell of it. That's the way I look at it. I grew up in LA, and I was just there a month ago, and it's nuts. You don't want it to turn into that. Complete gridlock everywhere. The coyotes are running. I never saw a coyote in my life. They're in the middle, and I lived there until I was 19. They're everywhere now because they keep outstretching. At what point do you say, hey, you know what? We have all these projects going. We're not accepting any new applications for growth here in El Dorado County.
Property owner has a right to ask.
You have the responsibility to process their
Yeah.
application. You
Yeah,
can
that's
come
what I'm
back with
trying
the
to find out.
answer, there's an insufficient water supply.
Yeah.
You can come back with the answer, there's not enough evacuation capability for the normal
But they
fire
still
that
get
could go
the-
through and stuff, so
Yeah.
the answer,
I understand.
but you have to have those reasons. You have to have a justification to continue things. And if you remember, Central El Dorado Hills specific plan was planned as a two-step thing, public comment, right?
Yeah.
From the public, and then there was gonna be a deliberation period. So we do try to consider those things,
Yeah.
depending on the size of the project. Some of
Yeah.
them are more manageable, some of them are just large projects.
Yeah, and so that's why we'll send that comment in just to say, is it possible? And still, I mean, if you have two hearings and they're in the same week, you're not substantially delaying anything. Or even if it's 2 weeks apart. I mean, applicants ask for continuances all the time, so if it's appropriate to have that structure in place for a planning commissioner or the board to hear from the developer, hear public comment, and then come back with their sort of formed concerns, questions, and have their deliberations independent of what the public comment and the applicant presentation is, allows time for people to hear everything and for, the decision makers to, assess what they're looking at and make some determination. And I had a text that said that they couldn't hear you if your mic wasn't close enough, John.
Oh, it's right here, but okay, I'll put it closer. Okay,
Okay, there you
thank you. Are you gonna get through everything you wanted to? There's a lot on the plate, right?
Well, I don't know. It's just something you're offering me because I really, there's too much to, I was just gonna say, when we looked at our DEIR for Marple Valley,
Yep.
over 40, almost 5,000 pages, 60 days. So if you have a chance to look at it and there's something that jumps out at you, we want to hear about it because I had a list of things that I was waiting for input on from people who are working hard on this. A lot of people right now, it's July, June, people are not here. So there are probably about 7 people I was waiting on things from, but they're just not able to provide that. And, I let them go until late last night and it had to be in today. So it's unfortunate. Hopefully we'll do a better job with Lime Rock Valley and the future draft environmental impact report.
So it's a 25-page response, so it's not, that's just a part of it, right? So.
There's attachments.
Right, there's attachments, there's exhibits, whatever. So, okay. Just one quick go back. If you don't know, and I think everybody knows this, but the comment period for the draft EIR for Generations at Green Valley closes on August the 12th. And I think you said that. I just want to make sure you know the time frame. Okay, perfect. All right, so you got mail notification? Perfect. That's the way it should work. Very good. So with that, George, did you want to add anything on the District 2
Well, we got
report?
a lot of projects going on, and I have a lot of concerns, especially when it comes to traffic and issues and a lot of this, especially when it comes to the EIR concerns too. So, but that's some of the things that I work on. I can't talk about any of the projects, but I did bring an agenda item that just recently, and it was basically to authorize the chair to sign a resolution supporting the Homeless Drug Addiction and Theft Reduction Act. And basically, let me give you a little bit of background on this thing. Anyway, it was, thank you, John, for voting yes on it. It was a 5-0 vote. But let me get you the guts of it so people really kind of understand it. Anyway, Prop 47 reclassifies certain crimes like illegal drug possession and nonviolent theft less than $950 as misdemeanors rather than felonies as they previously had been categorized. Since its passage, California has experienced increases in drug addiction, mental illness, and property crimes, reversing the decades of long statewide trend of decreasing crime in our state. According to a study conducted by the National Retail Federation, there was $112 billion in lost merchandise in the theft in 2023. Law enforcement officials and others have blamed Proposition 47 for massive increases in crime by allowing repeat offenders to continue breaking the law with little consequence. With the knowledge of Proposition 47 unintended consequences throughout the state, California Democrat and Republican parties joined together have worked on legislating to revise it. Drug Addiction and Theft Reduction Act's ballot initiative would amend Prop 47 by holding repeat offenders accountable, thus improving the community safety, according to the summary provided for inclusion on signature petition sheets and proposed ballot measure will. Hold those who are committing repeated retail theft and fentanyl sales crimes accountable for the safety and health of our communities, no longer allowing them to escape consequences. Allow felony charges for possessing certain drugs, including fentanyl, for thefts under $950. Create accountability to repeat smash and grab offenders that are costing Californians more than chasing retailers out of our state. So there's a lot of business, have closed and moved out of here because they can't afford to survive anymore. Bring back initiatives and accountability that are needed by individuals to get necessary drug treatment and job training programs, helping them begin new lives. Currently, those arrested multiple times for hard drug use currently have no incentive or choose treatment. So that we can give all the treatment is, but when you can't tell them you got to go there, they're not going to go there. So they need to be forced to do that, is what it is. To take place across California for coming weeks. With the adoption of the resolution, El Dorado County becomes the first county to join the growing number of jurisdictions across the state of California, which is now going on because Maria Alvarado Gil wanted my initiative and she wanted it sent to her. So she's sending it to all her different districts and all the sheriffs that represent her in different parts of other counties. So the safer restoring rule of law, holding repeat retail thefts and fentanyl dealers more accountable and emphasizing individuals who are addicted to homeless and accept the life-saving treatment. So this is a great thing. It's a start to bring back our state, especially when it comes to law enforcement. Now, we did an honor. We had a dog, a canine unit, was a tri-county canine is what it was, and she just passed away and from cancer. And she served the tri-county for 6 years. And she seized over $8 million in assets in fentanyl and everything that crossed the border. So we did an honor in her closing one of the board meetings out. But also just the other day, another canine unit actually seized 200 pounds of crank that was just going through our county, and they seized it. So when you see those trucks parked along the road, the white vehicles, that it represents our tri-county, and they're monitoring all the people that come through, especially through Highway 50, 49, and Highway 80. So I just want to kudos to them for all the good work they are doing to because fentanyl is a big thing, and I just worry about our young people, our youth, especially when it comes to drugs in our county. So. Yeah, exactly.
If you've been following what's going on in the state legislature, Democratic leaders are spending their last week of the summer break pushing a ballot measure, changing portions of Prop 47 as their response to the ballot measure that's been proposed by
but that's not all of them.
by initiative. So so there's a lot more to come on that before they close their session and we find out what's going to be on the ballot.
Yeah, exactly.
There could be competing
Right.
things on the ballot.
Two initiatives, two different ones.
Yep. Okay, with that, Cindy, why don't we go to your information and outreach, and I'll cover the other miscellaneous stuff
Okay.
here.
Okay, happenings in El Dorado Hills. As usual now, every Sunday, there is the El Dorado Hills Farmers Market from 9 to 1 at the town center. It's behind Nibblers and, thank you, and Trek Bicycle. On July 3rd this week, can be a little toasty. It's that awesome fireworks and freedom concert, and they have down in El Dorado Hills Town Center in the amphitheater. They have the live music. They're going to have food and drinks and bounce houses for the kids. That's going to be a little warm too, but it's a great event. So hopefully it won't be too bad, but they're going to have, and they have the really nice fireworks at the end. So that's a really neat event every year. And then actually on July 4th at the CSD community pool, they're having a little Fourth of July event. They're gonna have music, decorations and games, and that's from, that's actually a good time to go to the pool. And the El Dorado Hills Library is continuing their, library art Wednesdays from 10 to 11:30 at the library. It's open to everybody, all ages. And a couple of events on the 10th, they're doing feather play, the 17th, paper plate kites, they're making sun catchers, nature jewelry. So they have a lot of cool events at the library. And that's on Wednesdays. And again, at the library, they're having Jordan, the Science Wizard. That'll be on July 11th at 10:30. He's going to do a chemistry show with melting and oozing and smoking and bubbling. So it's a part of the program at the library called Adventure Begins at the Library. They're really trying to entice the kids to come in and do their reading, which is really helpful. My kids did that. They loved it when they're young, going into the library, and then they give them little gifts when they finish reading the book. So it's a really neat program. And continuing on Thursdays at Town Center, the Live on the Boulevard concert series. That's every Thursday from 7 to 9. July 18th, community helpers, firefighters, at 10:30 at the El Dorado Hills Library. The firefighters are going to talk about fire safety, and they're going to have a fire truck and firemen out there for everybody to see. On July 19th, CSD is going to have their big summer concert in the park, and that's from 7 to 9:30. And finally, that's it. Yeah, on July 25th, at the El Dorado Hills Library, they're going to have I think it's Taiko Dan drummers. It's the ancient art form of Japanese taiko drum, and they're going to bring a performance with music and choreography, and it's going to be outdoors on the gazebo by the pond. So everybody just bring your own chair and then enjoy the music.
Sounds great. Action packed, right? There's a lot going on in El Dorado Hills. So, all right. I'm going to run through the rest of these very quickly. Thriving economy. The Board of Supervisors had a presentation by our economic development team and the advisory committee. We decided to send it back for some additional revisions. This was a set of bylaws and other things. So that's supposed to return one of our July dates. I don't know which one yet, but it'll come back to the board in July as I understand it. And hopefully we'll be able to make a decision to rename that group SEED and to determine how many members are part of the standing committee. So right now there's a couple of different alternatives that are being evaluated, but ultimately
5 or 7.
5 or 7. But we wanted staff to come back and give us their recommendation on what will work best for them. So that will be forthcoming. Public infrastructure, we've talked about the new homeless navigation center. The plans for that are still being developed. It's the property adjacent to the county jail. We've talked about that before.
Way back when?
Well,
I'm the one that actually brought it up.
Same project.
Well,
It was a project that wouldn't be compliant because it didn't get the funding because.
Well, the thing is there was just not the support that it was.
No, you have to have a low
I know that.
barrier.
I know that. I know, John.
Criteria,
but
and
there was-
and it didn't meet
it
low
was put-
barrier.
But it was put in place and it could have went through, but there was some
Okay.
pushback on it.
I don't know that would have gone through with any funding, and that's the part we have to make sure. There is no county general fund going into any of the homeless activities. This is all money coming from the state and or federal governments. It's supporting all the homeless activities. Other than the staff time, we do have Health and Human Services, and particularly behavioral health, spending time there. The staff time is on the county's budget, but the rest of it is all the payment for the Volunteers of America serving it. That's all from state and federal funds. But we want to make sure we understand that because the county doesn't want to get into spending, the general fund resources to support
yeah, I
this
know,
if we don't
exactly.
have to. So anyway.
Yeah, and I just hope the state doesn't put us into that predicament in the future.
Workforce excellence, the kickoff meeting was held. I'm still waiting to get a report on what was done. Staff doesn't seem to be very forthcoming with some of that, so I got to check back on that. Strategic innovation, likewise, we need to check back on that because we don't have current information really to talk about there. There was an organizing meeting conducted on June 10th, but I don't know what the result of that was. And then we're still looking for a youth commissioner to fill the vacancy once the high schools get back in session, which is sometime in August. So maybe by our September meeting, hopefully we'll be able to announce who that is and make a selection and get that replacement on board to provide us insight of what's going on at Oak Ridge High School in particular, but high schools across the county as well. And they do a lot of behavioral health, mental illness type of treatment, and they have centers and stuff. So we'll get an update on those things. And with that, unless there's any go backs by anybody, I'm going to go to council member items. Anybody have any go backs? Okay. Just a quick note that our next meeting is Monday, August the 5th, right back here at 5 p.m. Our guest speaker, there's two guest speakers, Jeanne, who's the executive director of Clubhouse El Dorado, and also Frank Porter, who's vice chair for Housing El Dorado. And they're going to describe the clubhouse operations and the housing needs. So they're kind of intertwined in terms of the services they provide and what they're looking at. But those two events, particularly Clubhouse, is a major step forward. So hopefully we'll be able to share that information and get it out to everybody and go from there. So not seeing any other waving hands or anything, I'm going to say that we're adjourned before 7 o'clock, Mr. Davey, 6:54.
I'll learn my lesson.
Less than 2 hours of quick moving meetings.
Next time is up to Raphael though. So.
Well, I'll give you that one. Yeah, that's true.